Welcome to Business Aspirin, pain relief for business. Clint has managed a restoration company in Dallas since 2008 and is one of the top drying experts in his region. Clint is also the co-founder of JobDocs, a software developed to help his team manage their overwhelming volume of projects. On the podcast, Clint brings together business managers and leaders to share with you how they have overcome their business pains and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Clint Junell.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Aspirin. I'm your host, Clint Junell, and today I have with me Peter Duncanson from ServiceMaster Restore. And Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend.
Good morning, Clint. Thank you. Well, I've been in the cleaning and restoration industry for about 39 years. Started out as a helper on a cleaning crew many, many years ago and bought into the business that I worked for. Built that business up, sold it back to the people I bought it from, and then I've worked a couple of different avenues. My career has been with ServiceMaster in the industry, so I've been in a variety of fashions. Been on our corporate staff now for about 29 years, and currently head up training and product development for the brands.
So awesome! 29 years is a long haul with one group, right?
Yeah.
Was the original company also a ServiceMaster?
Yeah. Yes.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. And it tells a lot about ServiceMaster too, right? Is kind of the culture that you've built and your willingness to be there. And I think that's great for people to see and hear and talk about how the longevity of a career. It's great.
Yeah. And candidly, when I started 39 years ago, it was a temporary job. I was, my actual first job was a telemarketer, doing calling on a rotary dial phone using reverse directories, if you even know what those are, where instead of being listed alphabetically, it was listed by the streets, by numbers. We would hang flyers and then call up behind the flyers. I did that for about 2 days and kind of begged them to let me do something different. And I went on the crew and started cleaning carpet and very quickly dove into, reading the manuals and knowing more about it than the people that were there, and said, this could be a business. And I bought it from them and turned it into a thriving business. I actually tripled the business in about 2 years revenue.
Wow.
Now, again, this was 1985. And when I bought the business, it was doing $148,000 a year in carpet cleaning. And when I sold it, we were doing $390,000.
That's awesome though, man.
And
we had a conversation with a guy this week too that has been in the business for like 25 years. And we talked a little bit about the difference between, in your case now, 39 years ago and today. And clearly, very little of what we do is the same as what you did 39 years ago.
Right.
I mean, technology has changed our ability to dry structures, the way you go get leads, the way you navigate people. Like, when was the last time you picked up Yellow Pages?
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things that's very different. So where are you located, Peter? Like, where do you?
So I am based in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate headquarters for ServiceMaster was here for many years. They're now located in Atlanta, but our training facility is here in Memphis. Got about a 20,000 square foot building dedicated to training and product research and development.
Okay. Talk to me about that snapshot of timeline behind you in those pictures. What church fire somewhere, and it looks like I've seen that one.
That was a fire that occurred in the 90s in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I don't even remember the name of the church. A dear friend of mine here at ServiceMaster, they were in his office, and when he left, he gave them to me, and they've just kind of been my treasured possession moving.
Sure, man. That's a cool setup for the industry that we're in, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a neat fixture to have back there. It's just kind of that setup, and the way it's framed up that way is really great, man. So I'm a fan of that for sure. So you got started in the business 39 years ago. You started cleaning carpets essentially to kind of navigate your way into growing a business.
Mm-hmm.
It took you how long before you bought that business out?
4 months.
4 months.
Yep.
You said, hey, I want to buy this.
Yep.
They were ready to do something different at that point, I guess, at that time in their life. And so you recognized a need or an opportunity inside the business. and you wanted to do something for yourself. So let's talk about the mentality of, I don't want to be cleaning the carpet any longer. I want to be doing something different, because a lot of our guys that are listening to this podcast, that's where they're at, right? I don't want to be a technician anymore. I don't want to just be here. I want to do something different. Some of them want to move up into management. Some of them want to be entrepreneurs, or at least think initially that they want to be entrepreneurs and want to jump off into something. So talk about that mindset that you had all those years ago, right?
Sure.
And let's see how we can dive into that.
So, as I look back on it, and as they say, hindsight's 2020, and I see the mistakes I made, and because I knew how to clean carpet and I knew how to do the jobs and I knew how long, for me it took X amount of time, I expected everybody to do it in that same amount of time. And ServiceMaster has some very great systems as to being able to say this job should take this long. And I always beat that time. And so what I learned very quickly was not everybody worked like I did. And I had to figure out my strengths, my weaknesses, and hire to the weakness and let go of the things that I really like to do. Sometimes we hold on to things and we say, I'm the best at it in the business, but it may not be the best for the business that I'm the one doing it. A great example, I am not the accountant. I will never be the accountant in my business, but I understand financial records. I know what my metrics are. I know how to read KPIs, but I need somebody else doing that on a day-to-day basis. So I very quickly realized that I can sell very well, but it's not a good use of my time to be out selling. My job was better utilized running the business and developing my team. That was one of the big changes I made. The previous owners, and no slight to them, but their mindset, they sold it, they produced it, they oversaw it, they were on the jobs, they were in every account. And I said, it's just not, you're paying yourself 50 cents an hour. And I didn't want that. So I had to figure out how to build a business that would still give me a lifestyle that I wanted. I had a new family, a young family at that time. I'd only been married a few months when I started, first child on the way. And I wanted to be able to provide for my family. And I'm blessed to say today, all of, put my kids through school, working in this business. 3 of my 4 kids have worked within a franchise at some point in their life, and learned a lot from that business and took those business acumens and have taken them on to other parts of their life. None of them are in the industry today.
Well, that's a win in itself, right? Is you get them trained, you teach them how to do it,
Well,
move them on out into some other part of the world. And I think that's beautiful. I love it. Man, there's a lot of gold in what you were just talking about right there. And so I want to attack some of that a little bit in that conversation. Often we're having conversations about the fact that as entrepreneurs, we spend way too much time working in the business and not on the business. It's a normal thing. And the entrepreneurial mindset kind of puts you there. I like the fact that you said, hey, don't get caught up in necessarily doing the things that you may be better at than your team. I grew up in an entrepreneurial life, right? My grandfather had a plumbing company. My dad started an HVAC air quality company when that kind of became a thing in the early 90s. And so I grew up under the entrepreneurial mindset. But the reality was, what I learned in that entrepreneurial mindset was that same kind of mentality where I want to make sure everything's done right. I want to make sure everything is touched. I want to make sure the customer is taken care of. And as a result, I can't force multiply my growth because I can't be doing all those things. And yes, I'm paying myself, a minimal amount as a result. And I've learned to step away from that and recognize that I've got to grow the business and empower my team to do the things that they're going to be capable of doing, train them the best way I can to do that. And then there's going to be things that are done the way that, not necessarily the way that I would want them done, but that's still okay, right? Yep. As long as they're still done well. And sometimes we pick up the pieces. Yep. Sometimes you correct and you apologize and you fix whatever took place. But I love the fact that you're saying that, because I think it's vital for all of our people that are listening to understand that's a very real reality if you want to actually take your business and grow your business. you've got to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, you've got to, you said an important thing there, empowering your people. And I'm a big believer in, I hire the right people, I give them a job, train them what they need to know, and let them do their job and stay out of their way. Obviously I have expectations. I want my books closed by the 15th of the month. I want these KPI reports on a weekly basis, whatever it is, customer satisfactions, etc. But you measure and set those expectations, then let them do their job and help them develop as they're going. Big believer in developing people. Outside of work, I've been with the Boy Scouts for 30 some years as well, and help people develop in that same mentality of, how do you take somebody, you can't develop them. You can give them the tools to allow them to develop and give them the opportunities. And when you find somebody, you need to look at them and say, okay, today they're pushing a wand. They have aspirations and they have abilities to do more, but what is it? Now, just because they're great at carpet cleaning doesn't mean they're great at being a manager, unless I give them the skill set to get them there. And then they may find, I really don't like being a manager. Just put me back on the truck. Fine. I had technicians, and I know people in our network who've literally been on the crew for 30, 40 years, and they're great at it. Right. Wouldn't have them anywhere else. They don't want to manage people. They don't want the headache of being a manager. Fine. They're great at their job, but then let's find the right people in the right roles going up.
Right. And I think that's valuable too, because a lot of times there are guys that, like, I have plenty of guys that want to stay kind of in their lane, right? This is what I want to do. I don't want to be involved in having to do any kind of sales or talking to the customer about that stuff. I want to go do the technician side of things and navigate life that way. And I think those people are all valuable and important to us. There are individuals inside your companies continuously that have that dream and desire to try to go do something extra. And some of them aren't equipped for that fully, right? So you have to be in a position where they recognize that they're going to have to, like, you can't do all this on your own. You're going to have to put the team around you to make that work. And I think that's important for people to hear. So let's talk a little bit about your current role then. And what you do in like, you're the senior director of training. Is that the title that actually exists? So what do you train? What parts of, like, where's your wheelhouse? Where do you play? What sandbox are you in the training side?
So and I often laugh, my title doesn't really describe what I do.
Sure.
It's a title. When you've been here as long as I have, I get involved in a lot of other things. But from a training standpoint, I am responsible for the training of every new franchise that comes into our system. So for us on the restoration side, that's about 3.5 weeks of intensive training, in person, hands-on, technical, business, systems, claims processing, all of those steps. I have trainers. I have a lot of people on the staff who come in to train, what areas they're an expert in. I have somebody who trains in financial. Again, I'm not the accountant, but I have somebody that does all of that, etc. And like I say, we have this 20,000 square foot building with an IICRC approved ASD house. So we train in there. We train fire restoration. We train trauma. We train mold, everything, soups to nuts, in those 3.5 weeks to get them started. And then we go through a process beyond that with their individual business, and then all their reoccurring and their advanced trainings and certifications, whether it's commercial or large loss projects, those types of things. There's another, I think we added them up, there's about another 14 weeks worth of training that they can participate in, as well as all of what we have on our learning management system, our online series, which is about, before they ever come in, they do 40 hours of training on the LMS before they ever get here to walk through the front door.
Okay, so with ServiceMaster, they would get signed up, onboarded, whatever that process is. They're going to go through 40 hours worth of learning management, video, testing, questions, whatever is involved in the LMS. Right. And then they coordinate to come see you, and then they spend 3 weeks straight with you.
Yep. We do a 3-day virtual class on fire and odor, and then they're here for 3 weeks. They can either do all 3 weeks together, or they can do the third week later.
Okay.
That's kind of a little bit on their own schedule. But everything they do, they have a time frame based on their contract to come through, and then everything else is selected by them.
So if we can talk about this, like what is the general avatar of the person coming through? Like, where did they come from? What was their experience? Who is the person that's becoming a ServiceMaster franchise?
There's a lot of different profiles of
Okay.
a franchise owner. Okay.
Okay.
Some of your listeners who are independents today could easily be a franchise owner.
Yeah. Let's make a plug too. We'll make a plug later, just FYI.
But it's, sometimes people get involved because they're looking for training. They're looking for the systems. They don't want to have to build their own systems. So that's why they come to a franchise. We have people that, came out of the insurance industry. We have people that came out of the construction. We have retired military. We have a lot of different profiles of people.
Sure.
Candidly, what we want to look for is somebody who's got a work ethic. If they're here to have a work ethic and grow a business, we'll talk to them about a franchise. And that's about as close as I can come to it.
Yeah, sure. I just didn't know if there was some common theme, like some common pain, some common dream, some common need that was like all of these people that come to us are just looking to change the world or looking to provide for their families, or some, they've been discouraged in something else that they've done or whatever. But I get it, as big as you guys are, there's going to be a lot of different personalities that have come through the door to kind of make this thing work. So probably not a fair question on my part, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it is a fair question. It's something we talk about quite often, is what is the profile? And, in my 39 years, it's changed. When I started, it was, quite often, husband and wife who were trying to get out of working for somebody else, blue collar, and now they wanted to try and run a business. And they were, small mom and pops, a lot of them.
Sure.
Not that mindset today. Today we've got very large businesses and corporate minded type people who want to run large businesses. We have a lot of, again, still have a lot of those entrepreneurs that want the help in developing their system and training on how to do sales, how to do marketing, because otherwise they're reinventing the wheel constantly. And, they're out there, watching podcasts and YouTube videos on how to do things, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they're having to spend all the efforts themselves, and we put together the system for them. And that's why
they find the value in the package, right? And the tribe, the community, all the assistance that comes along with that.
Right.
I think that's great. Tell me something, Peter, that you wish you knew. Tell me something that you know now that you wish you knew when you started.
Oh, well, obviously the technology has changed, and you talk about how we dry buildings, and I can see in my mind going into flooded basements in suburban Chicago where my business was, and sucking water out of the wool carpet and throwing an air mover and a small Sears brownie in there and saying, yeah, I'll see you in 3 days, and coming back and going, yep, carpet's dry, must be good, and leaving. So from that standpoint, what I know today about microbial growth and drying, I wish I knew that. From a business standpoint, I wish at that time I had a better handle on the interaction and the growth of the insurance market and the insurance play. Insurance was a lot different, back then. And, unless you were sliding somebody something under the table or doing a favor, you probably weren't getting a lot of work. And I never played that game. I refused to play that game. And I wouldn't go back and say I would do that, but understanding those impacts, and I think
change how you made the play, right? For sure. Either way, for sure.
If the insurance company understood then what they know now about their own business, they would have changed sooner too.
Sure.
Today you
absolutely
wouldn't see that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think both of those are valuable. Like, those are both valuable points, because I think our industry created an entire industry of mold remediation, right? Because we weren't drying things well. And so then we evolved to the cut and gut to try to do some things a little bit differently. And then now we've learned how to more effectively place equipment and dry without as much cut and gut. And we just continue to evolve there. And I think that's great because it's going to still be something different down the line, right?
Right.
And at some point, somebody's going to come up with a way to create a microwave inside a house that won't destroy everything and dry a structure in 30 minutes, right? And you'd be like, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to change the space.
Yes, it will. And that's, we have to be innovative, constantly looking at more efficient ways of drying. I mean, you can't change physics,
Right.
unfortunately. And as long as we look at physics and look at the science of drying from a physics standpoint and working within the bounds of physics, I think we're smart. When I started, obviously the IICRC had been around, but wasn't the industry, or it wasn't the institute it is today. We didn't subscribe to it until really about 2000. I got involved with the IICRC and said, hey, we need to follow these standards. Let's push these standards. Let's take it to we took it to the insurance industry and said, look, you want to measure us against X, Y, and Z. Let's at least measure us against a third-party standard. And here's the third-party standard.
Let's have a target, right? Yeah. I don't know what I'm trying to attain if there's no target for me to attain to.
Right. Hold us all to the same standard. Yeah. And I was part of my career. I served on the IICRC board for 12 years. Okay. I spent 4 of those as chairman. I still serve on committees and help that part of the industry, from the S500, the rewrite, and a couple of other standards committees. But I see how the standards are important, and I want to continue to push those.
Sure. Transparently, I wish we could get a true standard that would be consistent, right? And I have several. I mean, we would know a lot of the same people, and some of the guys are on those same committees. They're friends of mine, and I just look at it and go, okay, right? Like we've got to get some consistency and stability across some of those always, so that because if the target keeps changing, and I know that technology allows us to do some things differently, but it just seems difficult to get, okay, yeah, it was this, and now it's this.
Yeah, a lot of the things that change within the standards really aren't related to technology, other than changing wording to allow technology.
Sure.
Is kind of what we're doing. And sometimes what we're seeing is clarification of wording. It's like any law or any rule that's out there. You don't give your kids a curfew until they start coming home late at night, and you start saying, okay, wait, you have a curfew. You need to be in at 10 o'clock. And they break the rule, then there's a consequence. Well, the reason we have to put rules in place is because there was a consequence, and somebody bent the rule or interpreted the rule a different way. So we change the wording so that it's clearer, or tries to be clearer. And that's kind of where we have this struggle.
Sure. My thing is around like the calculations of equipment. And how that's changed and said, okay, well, let's not put that in anymore. Well, let's not say this is, it's like, okay. Like, and that's fine, right? We can navigate some of that and figure out where it's going to go. Tell me, what is the coolest thing you've seen change-wise, whether it's technology or something else, in the last 39 years?
Wow.
Because you've seen a lot, right?
Seen a lot, yeah. God. Well, let me start with technology. Just an LGR, a low-grain refrigerant, was one of the coolest things. I mean, think about how revolutionary that was when that came out, and today it's just commonplace. I would say watching the change in dehumidification, units that are smaller, more efficient, etc., has been really cool. Air movers, I'm blessed to be able to work with a couple of the top air mover manufacturers and dehumidification manufacturers, and helping them in design and testing, and being able to look at it and go, yeah, that's really great, but it doesn't do this. Extraction equipment, I remember carrying a portable, we called it an RM9, ServiceMaster 9. It was a little 9-gallon extraction unit. That's how we did all our work. And now today we use truck mounts and, just the vacuum power. So you look at the differences there. And then go to technology, our software. Man, we've got, I've worked with Exactware back in the DOS days. I mean, back in the 90s, I was working with Exactware and have watched their evolution over, 30 some years of a software and core logic and the way they're coming about. Just being able to have data that tells us what's going on in our business is so powerful today.
Sure.
When I started, we had a form that you filled out for every job. You transferred that form to a big column or spreadsheet and did it all by hand, and that's how you calculated everything. You didn't have data. You had files of sheets of paper. And what's a filing cabinet today? How many offices even have filing cabinets?
Right. So maybe they still have them, but there's just a shelf or something, right?
Right.
Well, and that's the reason this podcast even exists, really, is because of the software company that we built, because I was losing too much stuff. Stuff was slipping through the cracks and it couldn't happen. And it was like, okay, how do we help? So we build a software, start selling a software. Then it's like, hey, you should do a podcast because you could get people that are really smart and a whole lot smarter than you to give you information and help the other people. And so it's all just kind of the evolution of all, and for that matter, podcasts didn't exist, right? You didn't have access to information like you do now.
We talk about training, and the first training that I got in the franchise were film strips with a little cassette. It went beep and you'd change the film strip. and the first VHS videos were literally somebody videotaping that film strip, so you still heard the beeps and it just changed on a VHS. And now today, I've got a videographer coming in here in another 2 weeks. We'll knock out nine trainings in about 2 days. She'll create, like I say, 9 trainings that'll be anywhere from 2 to, I think, 12 minutes are going to be the longest ones. And in 2 days we'll have those done and they'll be up on our website.
That's so amazing. Like, just to think about that as even an opportunity 39 years ago, you'd be like, what? No.
Yeah.
Like, that's not even a possibility.
Yeah.
For sure. So what are some of the biggest pains, since we're Business Aspirin, what are some of the biggest pains in business or in your franchises that you've helped eliminate, and how did you navigate it?
Probably one of the biggest struggles any business has is cash flow. If you don't manage cash flow, you can be doing $1 million, but if you got 900,000 in receivables, you're bankrupt. So looking at how to handle cash flow, how to build a business, how to process. Obviously, our work with insurance, we have insurance programs, so we do billing through insurance differently, and that for our franchises, and are able to manage that, which helps them in their cash flow. The cash flow and people are your 2 biggest challenges. And so then how do you recruit? Where do you go to get people? And then how do you train them and how do you keep them? Keeping them is the important thing. And that's why we celebrate, those milestones, whether they've been here a year or whether they've been here 50 years. Like I said, we've got a technician we're going to present a 50-year pin to this year. Technician, not an owner, been in a business for 50 years.
At the same franchise?
At the same franchise.
That's amazing.
2 owners, but he's transcended the 2 owners.
That's unbelievable.
And
that says a lot, man.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think so, like cash flow, because what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs is they go out and you know how our business works. You can make a lot of money real quick and then be slow for a while and have that downturn. And too often these guys jump into this entrepreneurial space and they're like, because their mentality is the business owner's making a ton of money all the time anyway, right? All these guys are just getting rich and I'm just still getting my $20 an hour or whatever it is. So they jump off and they make a stroke of money on something up front, and then they forget they have to pay their insurance, and then they go buy this big truck, and then they forget they have to pay for their rent on their building, and now they've got this big truck and now they can't afford it, so the cash flow becomes a thing. And then they make this one stroke and now it takes 90 days before you ever see another dime, because that's the way some of these projects work. They put themselves in a bind. So I love hearing you say, hey, protect your cash flow, be smart about it, make smart decisions, figure out ways to maybe put some of it back a little bit for that rainy day and for this lull.
Yep.
And then people, man, like it's so important that you build a culture where you can retain your people and you can hold on to them and you can move them forward and grow them and utilize them where they fit. Don't necessarily move everybody that's been there a long time into a management role, because 50 years as a technician, he clearly doesn't want to be moving up anymore. He wants to be where he's at, very content to be doing what he's doing.
And
I think that's huge too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Your culture is also important. What's your business culture? Are you giving back to your community? Are you taking care of your people? How do people see you in your marketplace is huge. I mean, obviously, ServiceMaster, we have a very long-standing culture where we've been around almost 100 years from our original foundation, and our culture is very solid and has remained over that time. And people know what we stand for. They know the ethics, and that's, you asked earlier, kind of people come to us. Well, that's part of the reason people come to us is for that ethics.
Sure.
That mindset.
They understand your core values. They understand where you stand, and they want to be a part of something that helps them do that and build that. Right. And that's great, man. I love it. So, I mean, you're 40 years in.
Mm-hmm.
So what motivates you to continue?
So in my place in my career, I get two things that really charge me up. Number one, when we're at a convention or a conference and I see a business owner celebrating a milestone of revenue, $1 million, or being a top award winner, and looking back and going, I trained them, I helped them get started. That charges me. And then on the other side, it's the people I work with. I mentor unofficially or officially, dozens of people in our company, and watching them grow and develop, some of which have, people that I've brought in who reported to me or reported to somebody who reported to me, we got one that's now a VP above me. I'm fine with that. I'm not here for a title. I'm here to help people develop, and help grow the business. And that's the kind of thing that really charges me up, helping the next generation come through. I'm 40 some years, you can kind of guess my age. I'm getting closer, the gray hairs and the what have you coming through here, but I'm not looking to retire. I'm just looking to help people develop into the next group and make sure the company continues to go on the foundation it's been.
Well, if you continue to be able to do what you love and you love what you're doing, then why would you need to retire, right? Like if I can keep doing it. Now, when it gets to the point where it requires too many energy drinks and too much coffee to maintain it, then maybe it's time to like push back a little bit and go on a part-time role. Like I'm going to train, but I'm going to be here a little less.
Right.
Man, I love it. I love the conversation. So I want to be respectful of your time. You've obviously had a lot of success. You've had some great things. You've had some good things you've gone through. You've spanned a long career in one industry with one company.
Yeah.
And I think that says some great things. What is one nugget of information that we haven't discussed yet that you would say, I need to share this with anybody looking to jump off?
Sure. Again, being at one company all these years, and candidly, I get offers, I get calls in the industry, out of the industry, to go somewhere else to be CEO of this or COO of that, and help me develop this new business, whatever it is. And I don't take those offers for a variety of reasons. And I talk to people, let's be candid. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The money's good, but you don't chase the shiny object. Look at the ethics, look at core values of who you're going to work with and for. And if you're the business owner, if people are leaving you for 50 cents an hour, it's not the money they're leaving for. They're leaving because there's something with your values and core values of the business that are wrong. Look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem. Let's fix it. And that's really what I look at, is just enjoy the people you work with, enjoy what you do, the money will make itself. If you take care of the pennies, the dollars will come on their own, kind of thing. And
Sure.
it's not rocket science. We get to help people in some of their most dire needs when they've had a fire or flood. And if you talk about hurricanes, the East Coast has had huge storms this week, and people are running up and down the East Coast taking care of things right before Christmas. I mean, think back a year ago, we had polar vortex on Christmas Day, and we all worked Christmas. It's what we do.
That's right.
My family just looks at it and says, "Bye, Dad. We'll see you tomorrow." They understand. But if you don't enjoy that,
correct. But what you just said right there is, I think, vital for us to point to, and I've made this comment a couple of times, is this is an industry that's inconvenient.
Yeah.
I might have to be working Christmas morning, and everybody around you has to have that buy-in, right? They have to understand what that's going to take, or they're going to have to learn this is what it is and be comfortable with it. And sometimes that really sucks. But really, anybody that's an entrepreneur that's trying to jump out, if you're an HVAC contractor and the heater goes out on Christmas morning, you may have to go to work to help somebody.
That's right.
It's not just restoration. So that's a beautiful comment, man. Because if you guys are listening and you're thinking, hey, I want to go do this, this is being an entrepreneur is not necessarily, all spectacular. There are things that are inconvenient and difficult. It has a lot of rewards. It has a lot of great opportunities to it. It provides you a chance to be able to do some things that you might not otherwise have been able to do. But it also comes with some sacrifices, and you need to be prepared for those sacrifices to do it. And I think that's important to hear.
Yeah. And when I ran the business, when I was running my actual business, I never asked my crews to do something I wasn't willing to do. So that call comes in on Christmas morning, I was with them. Whether I got to the office just to open the door and make coffee and bring them donuts to say thanks for coming in, or whatever it was. So you gotta take care of your people. And if you're looking to just be the big shot in the back office with your feet on the desk smoking a big cigar, this is not the business for you. That's a different world.
That's right.
You just treat people right, and they'll stick with you.
Yeah, for sure. Man, Peter, I love having you on. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
If you ever want to take over a podcast, I'll give you an offer now. It doesn't pay anything at all.
Oh, wow.
Basically just costs you to do it, but it still is helpful. So we'll just make that offer public. If you want to take over a podcast, we'll make it available to you. But man, really, I appreciate your time. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and everybody else have happy holidays out there. And we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
This has been a Business Aspirin, Pain Relief for Business podcast. If you're a business owner trying to overcome your business pains, follow us on Apple Podcasts or visit our website for more information, job-docs.com.